Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of the Imaginary Movie Podcast, a podcast where usually we watch a movie TV show instead. This week, we watched the first 4 episodes of Loki, the new Disney You'll Buy It Avengers TV show. My name is David, and I am joined by my esteemed colleague
Ross. I didn't know you were leaving him.
Sam, for various reasons, couldn't make it this week, partly because of a big life event, and partly because he point blank refused to watch this TV show.
Yeah, I mean, the second part is the lesser reason, but yeah, the first part you mentioned is the main reason. I don't think we have to be coy about it though, because we did say he's going on paternal leave last week. I don't think we need to. It's like, it's a important event in his life. So yeah. He had a kid. Congratulations, Sam.
Yeah, kidney stones, whatever. It's all fine. So that's not interesting. None of you care about that.
Yeah, we don't.
Sort of like to ourselves episode where we're going to speculate about Loki. There are 4 episodes out right now. We have really taken our time watching them, and there's 2 episodes to go. If somehow you stumbled across this on YouTube, number 1, how? And number 2, like, spoilers in the comments because I've ruined your life. And let's go, Ross. Let's talk about this TV show. So we watched WandaVision, didn't we? And we did.
Yes, we did. We watched WandaVision. We also watched Captain America and the Winter Soldier. So if you haven't listened to those podcasts, go back because they are a hoot and a holler. But yeah, we
by the way,
really
just a point of preference. It's
I knew you
the Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
What did I say?
I know it's difficult because it's a stupid name.
What did I say?
Soldier, which, do you know what? Fair enough, like reasonable. But like that, we're going to start this podcast off by talking about how shit that show was. Because really, WandaVision was really fun kind of throughout and like really enjoyable and a real like, wow, is this where Marvel's going? Like really fun, off the wall, like experimental TV where we're going to do weird things like what's real, what's not real. Great. And then, oh no, actually what we're going to do is watch people try and get bank loans.
Get bank loans and just go through the logistical sense of how to tell the world you're alive again, after you've been blipped out of existence for 5 years. Now, Dave, you and I discussing that sounds really interesting. They somehow made it boring. That's how, because we did an initial, for those of you who don't know, we did a massive sort of reviews on most of the episodes of WandaVision. Then we did we do one episode on Falcon and Winter Soldier? And then we promised we were going to do a wrap up episode, and then fair warning, I didn't even finish the series. Yeah. It was so boring. For those of you who were like waiting on tender hooks, for this episode that Dave and I were going to record, I can only apologize. We didn't have it in us. Well, I know you're not sorry you haven't watched it. I'm just saying I'm sorry that we've let you down if you were waiting for that episode. But God, it was so disappointing. And you and I discussed this, Dave, before we went live today. And I couldn't tell if the running order in which they released these TV shows was quite well thought out, or if they didn't even think it through at all. Because obviously WandaVision, amazing. It captivates those lapsed audiences from the MCU, gets them back in, gets them engaged again in a really sort of inventive and new way. And then you had Captain America. Fucking hell, he had Falcon and Winter Soldier. Like, I feel like this is our Ghost Rider podcast from last week. So Red Skull and the Winter Soldier.
Dude, honestly, like, so bland. Do you know what though? I think that I don't even think it's intentional. I think the biggest thing that you're not thinking about, Ross, is I think Disney thought that was good. I think Disney were like, WandaVision, great, fantastic, love it. Risky, but it paid off. People loved it. Lots of talk drummed up. Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Oh yeah, this is fantastic. This is great. This is cool. This is what people want. No, we don't want that.
And I know you disagree with me, Dave. But I actually think there's an interesting premise there. And because obviously, WandaVision and Loki, they're more fantastical, more mythical, and this is more down to earth. I still think there could have been a really entertaining, interesting story there, because they do touch on, serious tones and points, and it could have been done so much better. And I just think they had a great message to deliver, and they didn't do it that good a job on it, I don't think.
The problem with it, Ross, is kind of the problem you get with, it's like, attested to in sources, etc. That basically a lot of the time when they get someone to come and write a Marvel movie, they already have like the big fight scenes plotted out, and like they have somebody in charge of that, like directing those scenes and like putting them together. They've already got it storyboarded, and all they really want you to do is kind of fill in the gaps between fights, like the Avengers movies especially, like, and because they are the worst movies of the lot, because they are just kind of like, right, well, middle, let's get to the next fight scene, because they're the big summer blockbusters. You want everyone to come and see them. They want to be exciting, big, showy, right? And the Falcon and the Winter Soldier felt like that. Like, the Falcon's flying because he's cool. Yeah, but he's not Captain America. He don't need no shield. Like, great, but can we maybe have some, like...
Why do we care? Why do we care?
There's a gem of a story there. I like the Sam character from the movies. Like, I'm interested in what's happening to him. I am not interested in seeing him trying to save his sister's failing business and being knocked back at the bank. Like, I'm not interested in me being like, are we friends now because our friend's dead? Or do we go our separate ways? Like, no, still no. Just, mystery. There's no mystery in that TV show.
Exactly, and I promise we will actually talk about Loki in a second. But that's a very good point, Dave. They're trying to tell too many stories, and some of it is, really relevant to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Like, the guy who killed, Black Panther, and all, he's in this. How is this going to all work out? And then, like you say, he couldn't get a bank loan. What story do you want to tell here, guys? Give us one. You can't do both. Not in the same TV series, or at least the same season. Just pick a lane.
And that's why, Ross, it took me for a month to start watching Loki, because I was really afraid it was shit. It was going to be shit.
And that's a valid
spoilers.
Concern.
It's not. It's pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, I watched it immediately because, as is the
you
habit
have no
of
respect
this...
for your time. Yes.
No, I was going to say, as is the habit of the Imaginary Movie Podcast, I develop man crushes on actors, and Tom Hiddleston, has done it. Because he was in my shit list.
The Imaginary Movie Podcast admits no liability on Ross's latent homosexuality.
Listen, I can appreciate a good guy, like a nice
good
man.
Dude, yeah.
A solid guy. No, but Tom Hiddleston was on my shit list because of that movie you recommended before, Dave, High Rise, which, God almighty. But Loki, I think, is one of the more interesting characters from the MCU. So, I watched this the day it came out, and I'm very, very happy with it so far.
I think Loki from the MCU was always a bit of a... Like, he's a very mustache-twirling villain, and we get a lot of that in this. But let's maybe talk about Loki. So, obviously, we're big, Marvel... Not big Marvel nerds, but we're big Marvel Cinematic Universe nerds. Losers, basically. And if you're watching this podcast,
Fair.
I mean, look at yourselves.
Sam's gone for 5 minutes, and we're already bashing our already small listener base. Go to hell. You're worthless.
They love it. So Tom Hiddleston, I really like generally. I think he's good as Loki. I like Loki in the Thor movies, except that second one, which is dog shit. I don't love Loki as much in the Avengers movies. I think that he's just a bit too like, why are you doing all the things that you're doing? Like this on that as well, where Owen Wilson's like, why do you want to take over the world? And he's like, because it's my right. And he can't really answer no. And it's like, yes, that was the problem in the Avengers. Like, why are you doing all these things that you're doing? Whereas in the other movies where he's like, a scamp, he's a rogue, he's like reliably going to lie to you at every turn, and he's a scumbag and he'll betray you, but he's going to do it. Like, that's what I want. That's why this character should live, and why the performance sort of comes alive for me.
Yeah, I agree. He becomes a lot more sort of fun to follow him on his adventures when he is that mischievous scamp, and that's what he is, isn't he? You know, the god of mischief. But we should probably sort of outline it a little bit. So this takes place, obviously, sort of, I suppose you could say before or after Endgame, because this is the Loki
made up people at made up times doing made up things in made up places.
Yeah,
if you're unfamiliar with fiction.
Yeah, so if you haven't seen the most recent movies, don't worry about it. It's basically Loki from a different timeline.
Don't worry about that.
I don't. Yeah. We want to show you this, but forget about that. So
no,
Loki
spoilers,
from a different.
Ross, I've got this. Spoilers. This is from Avengers Endgame, where Loki's killed. Oh, sorry, he's killed in. He is killed in. Well, one of those.
It's hard, isn't it, Dave? It's hard, isn't it?
Right. So he's killed in the prime timeline. In Avengers Endgame, the Avengers go back in time to like steal all the MacGuffin stones to do the thing. That's not interesting in it itself. But when they're back in time, there's like a blink and you miss it scene. Like way before he's killed and things. And this is like, so this TV series is about that Loki.
Yeah.
Kind of like a, from before all of that, and we're following him is our kind of our premise, isn't it?
Exactly right. And so basically he's caused this branch in the timeline, like as Dave called it, the prime timeline. And then there's this sort of regulating body called the TVA, the Time Variation Authority. And I absolutely love
how dull they are. I love how boring the TVA are. They're like fucking
paperwork, I just love
man.
It just reminds me so much of Fallout, like Vault-Tec and stuff like that. Like all the surroundings. And
there's a word for it, Ross. Like they've got time travel devices, but they're still using pencils and clipboards.
Yes, and like the PC monitors are like fucking Macintosh from 1980s. Yes, so Loki is brought before this governing body. They charge him guilty, which I don't think that was fair. But regardless, they charge him guilty of being a time variant, and so basically, and then we also learn at the same time that there's also.
This sounds like courts. Guilty. You exist. Therefore, you're guilty.
I'd say that's the American judicial system. Yep. Then we also learn there's another Loki who's actually killing loads of agents from this authority. So then it's your classic sort of opposites buddy cop sort of antics for the first 2 episodes.
Yeah, while you set a wolf to catch a wolf.
Yeah, exactly.
And then our kind of like our other lead here, I think I messaged you when I was watching. It's like, oh, Luke Wilson's pretty good in this.
I just replied, Owen.
Yes. Also, yes. I knew it was Owen on some level, but like I don't know why my brain was like Luke Wilson. Of course. I mean, to be fair, they do look identical apart from the broken nose, which I'm sure was done by some casting agent. Like, mate, you two look too alike. Crack.
Trust me, you'll thank me.
Dead air.
Silence.
Doing this, and it's kind of like a kind of odd. I feel like I haven't seen Owen Wilson in anything since like the late 90s, and I'm sure he's been in commercial. Stuff. Exactly, I'm sure he's been in stuff. I just haven't been watching it, so it's kind of like an older guy, grey hair with a bit more like gravitas is quite fun. And also, like, this is what I like about the Marvel TV shows is we are getting movie actors into TV.
Yep.
As a rule, not to disparage TV actors, like you have to be a better actor to be a movie actor. In a blockbusters, like the quality is generally a little bit better. Fuck you, Sam, leaving us comments. To like, be a big name. And Owen / Luke Wilson was quite a big name back there in the 90s, and like you get someone like him in and you're it's Owen Wilson, blah blah blah. Very fun.
Yeah, I mean, you do see that throughout the sort of Marvel Cinematic Universes anyway. I know these are movies, but you do get sort of like big names appearing as not throwaway characters.
Do you know why, Ross? Because Disney owns everything and have all the money in the world.
Oh, they own everything and everyone. Absolutely, no, I get it. But I'm just
with the sale, Disney, just in case.
Loki streaming now on Disney Plus. Disney Plus, the best TV channel for you.
Get 10% off your yearly subscription at disneyplus.com/the Imaginary Movie Podcast.
But what I was going to say is this isn't out of sorts for this sort of thing, because you have like Tommy Lee Jones. He was in Captain America. you had a few other people as well throughout it. I'm on the spot now, so I'm trying to think. But
Samuel L. Jackson is a huge
but he's a constant thing. But yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but you do the latest Spider-Man. Not the latest Spider-Man. The first new Spider-Man's got Michael Keaton.
J.K. Simmons.
And J.K. Simmons as well.
Yeah,
but,
exactly.
Michael Keaton is the bad guy, and we can get some really big, heavy hitters in to play these roles. The newest one is the bad guy in. Have you seen Spider-Man: Homecoming?
Yes, I have.
It's Jake Gyllenhaal. Big name people are familiar with, and it's kind of cool to get. Like you said, it's that name thing where we don't really have leading men like we did in the 50s and the 60s anymore, but we have a mostly similar looking white guys who can turn up in movies and sell tickets.
But yeah, and I think obviously a lot of people just be volunteering for these types of roles. Do you know what I mean? There's a whole bunch of crap that goes on behind closed doors in Hollywood, isn't it? But
mostly money. Mostly money.
The cash. I feel like Owen Wilson is perfect for this type of role. This sort of bureaucratic guy, but he's got he's got that hey, I'm Owen Wilson charm.
He is a hayseed. He's a hayseed.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
Thing. He's like, oh man, I'm such a nice guy. Can I help you? Can I get you a drink? Can we be pals?
I'm flustered, but in a charming way.
Which is like Owen Wilson to a T, and he's one of those actors, and he's very good in this. I like it, and again, we do turn into a buddy cop thing, which I was waiting. I watched fucking 5 episodes of Falcon and the Winter Soldier, waiting for it to be what this is in the first episode.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah. So I mean, go on, Dave.
I was going to say, so we get he's arrested by the TVA, which is a silly acronym we will continue to use. Of course, he's arrested by the TVA. And
he's arrested by Time Cop. That's
he's arrested by.
What it is.
Yeah, but it's kind of they're like stormtroopers almost. They're really they've all got glowing. Erase you in some kind of horrible fashion. Apparently, we'll get into that in a minute.
Yes.
And they've got this black body armor, and it's very they're very military until you get to the office, and it's like a tax office from 1940, and it's so he's arrested, and they're basically right, let's come to an arrangement. Right, we won't erase you, which because we fucking can and will, based on our nebulous authority from somewhere ? But actually, we want you to help us catch this other Loki, and it's they keep saying Lokis, Lokis in plural, as if there's hundreds of Lokis, and us Lokis, we're always is this a thing? Is this
well, this is why I love it, because like you said, Dave, we're huge nerds of this, and it's not the first time this has been hinted at. And it's something I'm going to touch on later because it ties into another thread I'm going to bring up. But like you mentioned, Spider-Man Homecoming, with Jake Gyllenhaal as the villain. Initially, when he's introduced to Mysterio, he's introduced as someone from an alternate, Earth, an alternate Earth dimension. And that turned out to be bullshit. But it's not the first time this has been hinted at. And it's actually been referenced well in WandaVision as well. So
yes,
this is them.
Quicksilver.
Well, not just that, but when what's her name, Agnes, when she's doing her whole villain monologue thing, she talks to Scarlet Witch that that she's there are nexus points and nexus beings, which nexus beings are basically your heroes.
It's a word that gets thrown around in the other films as well, doesn't it? Like nexus beings is a word we've heard before, and nexus. This is all from the comics, isn't it? There's a huge comics,
it's a big thing.
Multiverses,
but it's quite diluted down, so it's more digestible for visual audiences. And essentially, what nexus points are is where you have multiple universes, and nexus points are where these universes overlap. So things are going at the same time, happening, identically, and then that's where you have these points where things can overlap. Sorry, Dave, continue.
I'm just going to sort of. It's kind of one of these satisfying TV shows where they set up a big mystery, and then they almost immediately reveal it, and then but in doing so, they set up a next mystery. So the first episode, we basically just get a lot of TVA stuff, and we're going to hunt this mysterious Loki in a cape. It's kind of all we get, really, isn't it? And
yes.
I've kind of ruined this by watching all 4 of them pretty much in a row. And then the second episode is where Loki figures out how to find this Loki. He decides that, and I love all silly as fuck, but like within the confines of like their premise, it kind of makes sense. So he sets up that the TVA have got like this magic reader that says, "Oh, there's a dodgy fucker here," like, and it'll tell them when the timeline is being compromised by a variant. And there's a lot of the same words.
Where it's branching out too far from what they consider to be the normal stream.
Exactly. They call it the sacred timeline or something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
It's very quasi-religious. And
I like your term better, the prime time.
Prime time, yeah, like TV. So Loki figures out, like, he's like, right, so Loki, the other Loki, must be hiding in I can't remember what they call it, like disasters, basically, like apocalypses. So he says, logically, if I went back to, the eruption of
Pompeii,
Pompeii, which is what they do, I think, and I just went around like fucking like shooting shit up and like telling people I'm from the future and doing all this stuff, which should make the TVA sensors go like error, like because all these people are going to be dead in 6 hours, like
it doesn't cause a branch
effect timeline. So he then figures that the other Loki, the variant that they're chasing, must be basically hiding in these spots to, like, avoid detection. And they're all like clever. Like, number one, how is Loki the person who figures this out? But that's neither here nor there.
Well, he's a clever guy. But
4 hours, like, hey, I understand this entire system of multiverses and things. Like, surely,
got literally thousands of people dedicated to this. I've nailed it.
This is what you get when you get Tom Hiddleston in. He's fun. He's very fun.
But I want to repeat. I love the thought that, because you know me, Dave. I love a time heist. I love time travel movies. I love the sort of the meticulous thought that goes into there's like the grandfather paradox and stuff like that. There. Oh, what does that cause? What is that? What's the knock-on effect? And I love that the forethought has gone into, well, what if you wrecked a bunch of shit before everything was about to go to hell in a handbasket anyway? I love the forethought of that.
I'll tell you what I did love. Sorry, Ross. There's a great series of lines where Owen Wilson is like, "Well, maybe they're hiding in the climate crisis of 2040, or maybe they're hiding in the, like, when the asteroid hit Earth in 2042," and like they basically list all these things from like between 2040 and 2100 of like all of these horrible environmental disasters, and it's just like it's funny because it's happening right now.
It's funny because it's raining acid.
Like, we are recording this, like, so good luck if we're going to get there. So we have all of that, and they go back to essentially like I don't know if you watched the sitcom Superstore on Netflix.
Yes, love it.
Yeah, this just reminded me. Oh, they're at that Superstore. It's like a Best Buy, basically. They're at where there's like a tornado or a hurricane that's going to kill everything. And I don't know how. I can't remember how Loki decides this is where we're going. We're going on a field trip. Loki's like, he's around, but he's not trusted. And this is where we have the big reveal that the other Loki is a woman, which is like a fun reveal.
Oh, I love that. What a woman.
Well, that's how it's treated. It's like, oh my god, it's a woman. It's a female Loki, and Tom Hiddleston, like as Loki, is like, I would never treat me like this. And there's loads of great like things where he can't wrap his head around, like, if it's him, it's like he's working on the basis that this other person is him, identical to him, and he's like, I would never treat me like this when he's being beaten up.
Again, this is one of the things that I love because, like, especially in the comics, and I'm a bit more familiar with the DC comics where you have alternate universes, and there's one thing called, like, I can't remember what they call it, but essentially there's a universe where all the male heroes are female and vice versa. So then, seeing this again in the movie form, brilliant, and it also sort of sparked in me. I don't know if you heard about this, Dave, but when they announced Phase 4 for the MCU, they were talking about, Guardians of the Galaxy and a Thor movie, and Thor was rumoured to be a woman. Now, this did take place in the comics, but then you're like, well, how are they going to do that with your man? Can't even remember his name. Tom something is still Evan, not Tom. Evan, one of the Evans is still Thor at the moment, and they're going to make.
Oh, Chris. That's the one.
Chris Hemsworth, not Evan.
Where also has a brother called Luke, confusingly.
But yeah, so anyway, what I was thinking was, well, how are they going to make Thor a woman when Chris Hemsworth's still Thor? And I think this is how they open the door to that now as well.
Okay, with comic books as well. Like, I'm not a big comic book reader. I think I was just too poor as a kid. Like, comic books are expensive, man. But the comics have been around for Thor and most of the Avengers for like 70 or 80 years. Like, they've fucking done it all. Like, these characters have been dead, buried, resurrected. They've been women. They've been black. They've been Asian. They've been everything. They've gone round. So kind of like having a bit of that bleed over is really fun. It also, when it said they were hunting a Loki, I was really afraid that, like, not that there's anything wrong with it, but I was really afraid we get a lot of Tom Hiddleston acting off Tom Hiddleston. And like, it kind of makes it a different TV show, doesn't it? Like, if it does. If it's him versus him, it's kind of like, which one of you is the evil twin, you know?
You'd get a lot of quick cuts, or one of them would have like a scar down the eye, you know, and they would look identical, but for the scar. One of the things that I thought was a bit, I don't want to say cheap or phoned in, but I can't think of a more kinder word for it. And that is up until Endgame. You know, Tom Hiddleston's character went from being, you know, the villain, an asshole, through, and they learn him and Thor's relationship builds and develops, and then in Thor Ragnarok, you see this sort of redemption arc for him, and he's actually, he's turned to be like this likable character who, that he and Thor are developing a stronger bond, and then he dies, and that makes his death all the more powerful. And then you have where you go back to Avengers 1 and he branches off, because he's got the Tesseract. So this is a Loki now that hasn't had that character development. He hasn't strengthened his bond with his brother. And you get that in the space of 10 minutes in this episode, which, again, I'm not saying it's bad, because you want to be following the Loki that is the Loki who died at the end of at the beginning of Endgame.
Because you've already been through so much shit with him.
Exactly, but they give him that arc in the space of 10 minutes where he's reliving, where he's seeing how the other him died. That's why I'm saying I can't think of a better word for cheap or phoned in, but it's just
convenient, isn't it? It's like
just below the mark of deserving.
I think it works. I think it works ish. Because it kind of like, it reminds you, it's like, oh, he's been through all of this, and you get to see him like. I realize it's like, oh, actually, like, I did love my parents. Whatever. Don't worry too much about that. Don't fucking think about it. Jerry Bruckheimer did a pass on this. Don't worry about that. Don't think about that.
Yeah. There's time cops.
So you like, it is, and you fill it all in purposes. We do get some really cool, like, Thorization is not the word, but like Loki in this gets a chance to like be a Norse god. Like I'm talking about, so the third episode, we found out that the other Loki is a girl, and she's not be too confusing to be Loki and Loki. Fair enough. And they are like trapped on a planet that a moon's crashing into, or a moon that a planet's crashing into.
Another apocalypse. Yeah.
Another apocalypse. And basically they're trapped there and they're stuck. And we get to establish a couple of cool differences. Number one, she can't do magic. Like, she can possess people, but she can't do magic like Loki can do magic.
The power is
making knives appear and disappear. Yeah. And number two, like, they are both selfish, narcissistic. Like, they're, and they both know. And it's kind of like a fun playoff where, like, they both know that the other one is going to betray them at the earliest possible moment.
Yeah.
And so it's a fun where, like, and we see this from Thor in the Thor movies, like, they've got a bit of downtime and Loki just gets smashed and starts singing songs because he's a Norse god.
Yeah, I love that.
Hedonist, I'm a Norse god. That's what we do. We just get pissed and sing songs.
We get drunk and sing.
She's like, and he's like, just how I was raised.
It's a Tuesday.
Which again, like, ties in nicely to Thor, like, especially from that first Thor movie, where like his idea of a good time is like, let's have some beers and talk about battles, and like it's kind of nice to see that through line here with Loki.
Yeah, that was quite cool. I tell you what, I quite liked as well, because there's sort of on episode 3, there's that cliffhanger where they plan to get off the planet on the ship. The ship's destroyed, so now they're like, shit, we're fucked. And then
then they get to answer the question. It wasn't you, but it was you.
Yeah, and do you know what? In some way, because I know like this is a weird turn, but not in a perverted way. But I'm glad they haven't steered away from
about
it.
to say something really perverted.
It's not gay if it's you. No, but like,
well, it's not gay if the other you is a chick.
Yeah, exactly. But that's what I mean. So like, you know, because obviously these characters do have this connection. You do see like that they are drawn to one another, and it's great that they didn't try and find like a loophole. Oh, it's okay because it's not actually Loki or something like that. They went, yeah, it's, you know, two people drawn to one another. Because who do you love more than yourself?
Nobody. I can say that because I'm a single man. You can't say that. You've got a wife and a child. No.
Have you met me? I'm particularly amazing.
Who am I to argue? I think that, like, in the confines of this TV show, I think these characters are like, once we meet Sylv, like, it's clear enough that they're two distinct people. Like, you know, do you know what I mean? If this same plot was happening and it was Tom Hiddleston and Tom Hiddleston making eyes at each other, number one, I'm buying a ticket. Number two, like, it's just it's a bit weirder, like you said, but these are two different people who happen to be, you know, the same, what's the, like, cosmic being, aren't they? They're the same, like, they're both Lokis.
They're the same role in the universe, but
yeah.
They're different people. Yeah. I mean, I was trying to explain this to Amy, like, when she was watching, she was like, so what? That's Loki now.
Your poor wife has to put
I know, honestly. And so I was like, yeah, but, you know, it's a different universe, so, you know, it's a girl, so what? It's a different Loki sperm. Don't think about that. That's not important. It's just same Loki, but it's a girl now. Well, that's not how science works. Okay, just watch the TV.
They're also demigods, like, who live on Asgard. I mean, let's maybe not, like.
Why didn't I think of that? Well, Amy, they're gods, so they don't conform to, you know, human sperm tactics.
Yes, but they have divine sperm, so they just do what they like. It's different rules.
One of the best.
That's what we should caption the episode as, Ross.
Yeah, divine sperm. That's it. Nailed it. That's the little 30-second clip we're going to post on Twitter.
Absolutely. So when we get, like, what do we get in episode 3? Because it's quite a big episode, really. We get, like,
so episode 3 was like
that's
you said,
where they're stuck on the planet.
So, like you said, you know, we get this sort of cat and mouse between the two of them. You know, who's going to betray the other? You know, always watching out. I compared it to whenever I play a game of Risk with you and your brothers, and I'm like, well, I know I'm going to get fucked. It's just a question of how and when. Yeah, exactly,
dude. I cannot play Risk with my family anymore because I don't have 12 hours to scheme and to plot and to call in markers I gave out 15 years ago.
This is the thing, though, because whenever we go, hey Ross, why don't you and I form an alliance? Nope. Why not? Come on, Dave.
The trouble is, Ross, you have to. Everyone will pounce because they'll sense weakness.
The thing is, though, I'm terrible at the game, so I'm thinking, oh, I'll betray Dave now, and then you always destroy me, so that's why I don't play Risk with you anymore. Anyway, moving on. So you get this cat and mouse between the two characters. They get on this train that takes them to the spaceship that we mentioned earlier.
By the way, I love the production design of this planet, this mining planet. Like, I love Marvel space stuff. I think it just really does it for me. I don't really well thought out, Ross, but like, it looks really cool. I like the costumes. I like the effects. I like the general sort of, like, it's futuristic, but not, you know.
The worlds feel distinct. So you're on Earth in 1 minute, and then you're off on a planet, and you know you're off planet. I mean, not even like the set design and the decoration and the costumes, but like just in the background, and it's probably CGI, but I just love those sort of like those landscapes, and you see this massive planet looming like on the horizon.
Yeah,
gorgeous sort of views like
Disney
that.
Disney makes a good looking TV show and film. You know, they know what they're doing. They've got the money.
Yeah, exactly.
There's no, pardon the pun, there's no Mickey Mouse shit here. This is, I mean, there is, but
so episode 3.
You owe Disney $6 now.
I know, yeah. Episode 3 ends with that cliffhanger, and then in episode 4, the sort of the moon's crashing into the planet, and the two Loki and Lady Loki, are sort of having this moment, this connection, and you see from the prime time. As of Dave Newell 2021, you see the prime time and you see a branch going off, but usually the branches go off on an arc. However, this was going straight up, and this was the significance of this hasn't been commented on yet in the series.
No, yeah, but they call it a nexus point, and as we discussed in the previous episodes, you can't make nexus points when the entire world is about to be destroyed. So, like, the way that the time agency the TVA finds them is kind of like a, you know, why? But it's something to do with the two of them interacting. Like you said, Ross, there's some spark there, and like, what? And we don't, at the end of episode 4, we don't really know like what that means then exactly.
I'm questioning: is this significant because it just happens to be, you know, Loki and Loki? Like if it was Ross and Rosalina, do you know what I mean, that we're having a moment, is that the significance, or is it significant because it's Loki,
you with a bow on your head?
It's all of this up here. That's the only difference. Longer mascara,
terrifying,
but also sexy. Am I right?
There's something compelling about it, Ross.
I mean, I'm hot. You know what I mean? I'm hot on the collar right now, just thinking about it. This is Ross, next level.
Ross on like Ross.
Yeah, this is next level narcissism, and I'm fine with it.
It really, really is. But Ross, we have a podcast almost purely so we can listen to our own voices. So I feel like we're already pretty high up there.
I was going to say, you mean the Ross show?
Yeah, the Ross show.
So
with your host, Ross.
and Dave. So you have these nexus points, and it's not commented on the significance of these at that point. But this is how the time cops find the two Lokis. They bring them in, and this is where things start to develop then, because the Owen Wilson's character, his boss, is essentially, it's been revealed that she's not being too forthcoming with him. He doesn't let her, interrogate the female Loki, and it comes about that, she's been lying to Owen Wilson. And it also transpires that all the TVA officers, all the time cop officers, are actually variants themselves. So these are people who, from the prime time branch coin, David.
Just like Loki, they are people who were arrested.
Thank you. Yes.
And like that's something that Sylve, the female Loki, femme Loki, says in episode 3 to Loki. She's like, the TVA's a lie. They are lying, and they didn't create these people. They stole them basically, because she can possess people and like uncover their memories. And so Loki, when they get out, he tells Owen Wilson, he says, "Listen, the TVA is lying to you."
Yeah,
and
it's quite good because that's sort of hinted at, like back in like the first or second episode, because Owen Wilson's character, now up until this point, he's not an Earthling. He's just created by the 3 timekeepers. That's what these omnipotent sort of guys are called. But and it's brushed off as like, it's a quirk. And so then this is why he likes jet skis. He's not just your being who came into existence. He was a human, and he's had his memory wiped.
Yeah.
And then,
and they all are. And we have a couple of them, don't we, Ross? We have the soldier who gets kidnapped, and then like she's murdered.
I actually remember the names: B15 and C20.
Names, the fucking numbers they get given at the
Officer C15 and Officer B20. Fuck you! I remembered.
I apologize.
Thank you.
Time agents. So we have a couple of them, and they all die horribly. Again, using these like weird sticks. And this is the point towards the end of this episode. Like, where the fuck is this sending people?
Well,
like it basically dematerializes you.
Up until the post-credit scene, which I'm going to touch on in a second again.
I'm glad you watched it.
But this is the thing. I only know there's a post-credit scene in episode 4. I didn't check about the first. I only discovered it by accident because I was cleaning the living room.
I was like, think so, because I watched them all in one.
Let's circle back to it. To it. Anyway, these glow rods, essentially, up until then, you would think that you're just eliminated from existence, which is fucking terrifying because it's instant death. Do you know what I mean? To like, you know, to a normal person, that is you. Lights out, gone. See you later. Yeah, it's a bit terrifying, those things.
But yeah, they send you somewhere, but like we only find out in the post-credit.
Exactly.
Like at the very end, Loki's about to tell Sylph, female Loki, I guess that he loves her. It's very confusing. Lady Loki.
Yeah.
I like the alliteration. He's about to tell Lady Loki that, yes, I've never felt this way before about anyone, and I could only really feel this way.
Wasn't a lady when Loki was done with her. You know what I'm saying? Couldn't resist.
Hey, I'm with you. And like he gets stabbed in the back by the I can't remember this lady's name either. The boss, like the head of the TVA.
Janice.
It's Janice. It's not Janice. So she's like stabs Loki, and we're like, I was honestly like, and I'm a grown ass man. I was like, oh, no, they've killed him.
Yes. Hey, you can't do that to Owen Wilson. He's a hayseed. He's a lovable hayseed.
I was talking about Tom Hiddleston as well, like because obviously Owen Wilson gets got, and I was like, oh, that was a really abrupt way to kill that character off.
I actually forgot that because it hit me because Owen Wilson got killed first. I was like, oh, I was really enjoying him, and then like Tom Hiddleston is like, no, please, Jesus, no, who's left?
Yeah.
So then we discovered the 3 timekeepers. They're actually robots, and then that ends on another cliffhanger, and then we have the post-credit scene, which I'm going to talk about post-credit scenes in a second. Then we have the post-credit scene,
guys.
Oh, that's definitely coming. Then we have a post-credit scene where we see Loki, who we thought has been just erased from existence. He wakes up in this lush field, and then basically he's sort of greeted by 3 people who you sort of then realize that they're also other Loki variants, and they're all in different sort of costumes. One of them's looking like the traditional comic book costume, like with the red, the green and yellow, and the big horns.
Isn't that Richard E. Grant as well?
I didn't catch it.
I think it is. I think I did look. It's Richard E. Grant is like the comic book Loki. You've got Kid Loki as well.
Kid Loki, but then the other guy, and the other guy who, I don't know what his Loki name was, but he was another Loki. But he seemed to be holding Thor's hammer. Yeah, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, so, it's again like we talked about this in WandaVision. I'm like, who are these people? What's going on? I'm so confused. What's happening? What?
I want to know more. And I love, Dave, when you messaged me sort of like last night, like, what the fuck? Episode 4, where's the other episodes? I want to watch more of this. And you sort of forget how spoiled you can be sometimes when you're streaming episodes. Like, where's the rest of this? I feel robbed.
I was a bit like, it was like 11:30 and I finished watching episode 4 and I was like, oh,
I've got one more in me. What the fuck?
I don't want to go to bed. Like, what am I going to watch something else when I'm all like hyped up to watch another episode of this? I'm like,
when you're in the groove. But sorry, I was going to talk about
televisual blue balls, Ross, is what it is.
That is a statement. You were coining a lot of statements in this episode, Dave. You're on fire. In a sense,
I am paving the way for the culture of the future.
But yeah, I want to talk about post-credit scenes because we discussed this in WandaVision as well. Because we discussed it when you and Sam pointed out to me, oh no, we discovered XYZ in the post-credit scene, and I went, post-credit scene, and I was like, so I've got to go back and watch shit. And Sam, who's not with us, we wish him a speedy recovery. Sam is an absolute boisterous enemy of post-credit scenes. he's dead set against post-credit scenes, and I understand why. I actually quite like them for movies. For TV shows, have given me a post-credit scene when there's going to be another episode next week. You're killing me. I don't know, when do I stop watching now? When do I stop watching?
Ross, it's become a really lazy thing, but rather than having a cliffhanger, you either like it's like a second bigger cliff that you see after the cliffhanger that kind of robs the ending of any tension, because we see Loki wake up in this field. In this example that I'm going to use, we see Loki wake up in the field, and we're like fucking, these episodes are coming out a week apart. Like, just have us raise the stakes, have oh my god, he's dead, what's going to happen? And then at the beginning of the next episode, we can have that. I don't like post-credit scenes generally. I agree that sometimes they have their place, and I will say, when the Marvel films first started doing them, I was like, oh my god, because it's like an extra bit with the Infinity Stones that you get to figure out, and like...
But that's the key difference, though. Sorry to talk over you.
I wonder what's going on. But now, every fucking movie has a post-credit scene, and I'm like... Fucking, I've got places to be. I've got work to be doing. I cannot be watching 45 minutes of credits.
That's the key difference, though, you see, because in movies, you have, tension, hero. Yes, Dave?
Phone making noises, don't worry about
it. Maybe put that bad boy on silent, eh? Maybe give off the illusion that we're professional. Anyway.
We'll edit this out. It's fine.
No, keep this in, Sam. I want people to know
that now.
So in movies, you have, tension. Hero comes, saves the day. It's all great. And what that post-credit scene then delivers is, oh, there's something else to look at. Cool. Whereas in the TV show, it ends on cliffhanger. What's going to happen? And then the post-credit scene takes out, like you just said, Dave, takes away the value. So I don't like it for TV shows. That's personal. And that's my rant on post-credit scenes done.
Actually, this is not the worst example of a post-credit scene I've seen in a Marvel TV show. There's one in WandaVision that was a bit more like, you could have saved this, It
was with Vision, wasn't it?
Yeah, White Vision, basically. And it was like, we didn't really need to see that. Like, I was interested enough to watch more. It's kind of funny though, like, I don't feel shortchanged by them only having 6 episodes, but I'm desperate for more of this. Like,
Same.
I like these characters and I like this world. And
what I want to talk about is sorry, Dave, go on. Finish your thought and I'll come in.
No, that was it, really.
Yeah, I completely agree. I want more of this, what they're delivering, this fantastical stuff. It's the things where you can't explore these in a movie because you've got a whole other story to tell. But in TV shows, you can take your time and you can pull on threads that people are going to want to know about. And that's the thing. And I think that's why these shows maybe are a bit, in our opinions at least, more entertaining and more interesting than, Captain Underpants and the Winter Soldier. And so, but yeah, one thing that
Captain
I want to
Underpants and the Night King. This is some sort of Game of Thrones mashup.
Yeah. One thing I want to talk about now is talking about where this comes in the timeline, and sort of in the whole MCU sort of timeline, because I don't know if you know this, Dave, but I recently found this out, is that WandaVision takes place 6 months before Spider-Man Far From Home, which obviously, Spider-Man Far From Home came out, like a year or two before the WandaVision series even began airing.
Yeah, but the context of that is like, so Avengers Endgame is the blip is undone. That's 5 years after Infinity War in the Marvel universe. And then like everything that's after the blip returns, like it says, after.
So you have Endgame, Thanos is done with, save the day, and then like 6 to 7 months later, then you have WandaVision. And then that, like 6 to 7 months after that, is when Spider-Man Far From Home takes place.
Right.
Which is how it does, because especially when you consider how the Mysterio thing, from an alternate dimension, how that's it's more credible now because this is something that's referenced earlier in this universe. Sorry, getting real, detailed with my nerd rage now. So what I'm wondering now is Falcon and the Winter Soldier, that could take place anytime. Not really bothered about
2019. Like, it doesn't matter. Does not matter. That's just a post-COVID TV show.
What I'm interested to discover or explore is, where do we think this sort of lands in it? Because it's obviously playing with time travel, it could take place anywhere. But and maybe that's the point.
I don't know, Ross. It doesn't. It's not anywhere. I'll qualify that.
I get what you mean, but go ahead. Yeah,
I would really like for this to be like
you burping on screen.
I apologize. People burp. Shocker. So I kind of want this to be like a way to have like open a door in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, because I like Tom Hiddleston. I think it's a good performance. I think there's more to be had from that character, like especially as we've seen him develop in this TV series. But as to the series, I kind of really WandaVision that it wasn't like, let's fucking save the universe like Thanos 2. Thanos' dad is going to come and beat up the galaxy. Like, it's not that. It's kind of more about Wanda's dealing with like her own loss, and that's kind of like that's a smaller, interesting story with a character that we're familiar with. Like, I kind of want this Loki thing to be him and Sylve take down the TVA, who no one in the prime timeline has ever heard of, so it has no bearing on them. I really want that to be like the upshot of it, and I'm not sure where I like how it's like that's somewhere else, like that's different dimension or whatever, and they can time travel, and like you can have your cake and fuck it too in that situation, like legitimately, because time travel.
Yeah, and I'll allow that because they're really putting in the groundwork.
Magnanimous of you.
Yeah. Granted, you may fuck the cake, because I think they're putting genuine.
Ross's wedding was wild.
Shit got real fast, but I think they put in the work to make this sort of credible and acceptable to the audience. I mean, what I hope to see from this is, obviously, because I think this is, and I think what you were saying as well, Dave, this is going to be like a nice self-contained story for Loki, but it also opens it up then for, like I mentioned, female Thor, and maybe we see Loki and, Chris Hemsworth's Thor maybe, join up again on the big screen, and I think people would love to see that. This show so
maybe
far.
Not in the... Like, maybe a bit of space. I don't know you want instantly to have another Thor and Loki movie, but definitely leave that door open and like let's make more of this sort of thing.
Yeah. I mean, I completely agree. And I was just going to say, like, as a whole, I'm really enjoying this series. It doesn't go overboard. If anything, it always leaves you wanting more, which is a great thing to do for a TV show, post credits aside. I can't wait to watch the last two. And I was going to say, Dave, do you think we should do a review of the series itself? A wrap-up
of the series, a wrap.
I
think we should, Ross, but we've also got previous for promising to do this and then not doing it. And also, if you'll remember, with our WandaVision, an on-time episode of that series. Like, because we're just terrible. We're poorly organized. We should definitely do a wrap-up, though, because, like...
I mean, you get what you pay for. So
you get what you pay for. Fucking PO box.
You want us to be on time? Pay us.
Or come and live at Disneyland, no problem.
Get us sponsorship deals. Disney Plus, now available on all home consoles. Disney Plus, the streaming service for you.
In reality,
Disney want fuck all to do with us.
Absolutely nothing. We aren't. What's the word? Worth anything? Talented, relevant, saleable.
Yeah.
All of these things. Like, Ross, they can fucking go out in the street and like, shout craft beer, and they'll get 3 other bearded white guys who are more interesting than us. That's not a problem.
Yeah, that's fair. But I think we should
I'm
wrap this up
excited to watch more Loki. I think we should definitely do a wrap up of it. But after the last episode, I think.
100%, yeah.
And it's I'm kind of interested to see where it goes, and like with WandaVision, I'm interested to see what the implications of the ending of this are on the MCU as a whole, and not necessarily because I'm like super invested in the integrity of the MCU, but I kind of do want more of these characters. So,
absolutely, and I think it's because we're having fun watching this that you have that much more interest on how it'll affect the MCU.
Disney, please God, take a lesson. When I enjoy watching your TV show, it's more enjoyable for me, and I'm more likely to watch it.
You heard it here first, Disney.
Captain Underpants and the Night
King. You also heard, Captain Underpants and the Night King, and you also heard Divine Sperm. So what does that tell you guys? Minted. Thank you. Okay, I think this is where we should wrap up, Dave.
Broadcast button.
Peace out.